Hi everyone, and welcome to For Immediate Release, episode number 394. I'm Neville Hobson.
And I'm Shel Holtz. And one of the things that people in communications and many other professions are worrying about these days is whether AI is going to replace them. There could be consequences beyond the people who do the work losing jobs to AI, and we'll talk about one of those potential consequences right after this. 9 years ago, an academic study found that, and I'm quoting here, a board with one marketing experienced director is associated with a 3 percentage point increase in total shareholder return over a board with no marketing experienced directors. Now, if 3% sounds like a rounding error, consider a company the size of, say ConAgra. It's a consumer packaged goods company. Its most recent shareholder return in terms of dividends declared on common stock was $599.8 million. An extra 3% is a mere $17.9 million. So I don't think anybody would sneeze at that. But it gets better. When a company's market share is falling by 1.5%, the presence of a marketing experienced director is associated with an increase of more than 6 percentage points in total shareholder return. By the way, this study was reported in a recent blog post by Frank Strong, so appreciate Frank pointing this out. And we have a link to the actual study in the show notes. But with numbers like that, you would think that company boards would be tripping all over themselves to find prospective board members with marketing experience. But just 2.6% of board members, they were looking at a total of 12,106 board members in this study, just 2.6% of them had marketing experience, and just 16% of boards had at least one director with marketing experience. It's not unheard of. I mean, Paul Otellini replaced Craig Barrett as the CEO of Intel. He was a board member. He had been Intel's executive vice president and general manager of sales and marketing. He wasn't an engineer, and he became the head of the company. But even those few boards that have bothered to include people with marketing experience could be at risk if a prediction Sam Altman recently made holds water. Altman, of course, is CEO of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT and the DALL-E image generator and other stuff. Altman was quoted recently saying that AI is going to do what 95% of marketers use agencies, strategists, and creative professionals for today. While this went unreported in the media, it's included in a new book coming out called Our AI Journey. In the book, Altman was asked what AGI, that's artificial general intelligence, will mean for consumer brand marketers trying to create campaigns and the like to build their companies. Altman's response, I'm going to quote here, for that, it will mean that 95% of what marketers use agencies, strategists, and creative professionals for today will easily, nearly instantly, and at almost no cost be handled by the AI. And the AI will likely be able to test the creative against real or synthetic customer focus groups for predicting results and optimizing. Again, all free, instant, and nearly perfect. Images, videos, campaign ideas, no problem. Thus endeth the Sam Altman quote. And by the way, he believes that AGI is about 5 years away. Now, personally, I think it's a fool's errand trying to predict when AGI will arrive. Among the experts, and I am not one, but the people who spend their lives dealing with artificial intelligence, you hear everything from AGI is here now to AGI is impossible, we will never achieve it, and everything in between. But the question is, for those boards that understand the value of someone with marketing experience on the team, where will those people come from if 95% of marketing is done by AI? Of course, with AI, with AGI, 95% of what boards might do could be done by AI. There's one bit of speculation. But does Altman's prediction really mean that agencies are going to close up shop and 95% of marketers will need to figure out something else to do with their lives? I prefer the perspective from the Content Marketing Institute, which reported on Altman's prediction. They concluded the article by saying, that's the takeaway. Every time you see one of those headlines, a prediction look at it through the lens, what if it's me who changes to meet the value of the innovation and not what the innovation will do to change the value of me? And that is why all of us in communication need to get up to speed on AI now. Stop worrying and start figuring out how it will increase your value as a communicator.
Plenty to think about there, Shell, there's no question. On that point about artificial general intelligence and predictions you mentioned, I just go back to what Gartner says in the Hype Cycle for Artificial Intelligence, the latest edition of which was published in July last year, nearly a year ago, so the next one is due in a few months. But that says AGI is still on the slope prior to the peak of inflated expectations, but they say this is more than 10 years out. I think that's the likeliest scenario, I believe. What's that belief based on? Well, I tend to trust much of what Gartner predicts in these hype cycles, but in the absence of any hard evidence to tell me otherwise, this sounds realistic to me, 10 years out. Of course, that's the mainstream adoption. Doesn't mean to say we're not going to see lots of people doing stuff way before 10 years are out. But that's the whole thing about the hype cycles. It is about mass adoption, not testing or individual groups experimenting. So I guess if I were to give you a succinct view to everything you said there and all those points, including Sam Altman's, I would say that, let's kind of push aside these silly numbers, 95% and all that stuff. That's ridiculous in my view. In my not so humble opinion, I would hasten to add to that. I could see artificial intelligence assisting the marketing director who's on the board of a company. And again, to me, this is the whole point of the value proposition of AI as it currently stands now, that it augments us. The augmented intelligence is how you'd explain what AI means. So I can see it playing a role. Will it replace marketers? I mean, that's a clickbait headline-grabbing statement, which is precisely what's been happening over the last couple of weeks with this. So I don't see that. Now, others might say, God, he's so naive, this is all happening. Well, it is all happening, but you're talking in terms of a complete replacement, a usurping of humans in work. And we're nowhere close to that kind of thing right now. Sam Altman probably should know better, but he knows more than I do about all this stuff, that's for sure. But he's got something not wrong in what he's saying, in that the artificial intelligence ought to play a significant role in this particular example we're discussing today, as with just about any business function that involves people, as a tool that people can use to improve their abilities to, in a sense, interpret what the AI is discovering. On a simple level, we all do this. I'm sure many listeners are doing the same thing every day, which is using a tool like ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or Gemini or any number of bespoke GPTs that people are making to answer questions. How do I, or what is X, or where's this going, or research, whatever it might be, that kickstarts something that they're able to do. And this is exactly what we're going to be seeing evolving. And this is not artificial general intelligence. This is generative AI mostly. Yet, and of course, again, go back to Gartner, Gen AI is absolutely at the pinnacle of the peak of inflated expectations at the moment. According to Gartner, generative AI for mass adoption, which is where this sits, is 5 to 10 years away, they say, in their hype cycle for artificial intelligence. By the way, there's a contradiction there, because if you look at the hype cycle for emerging tech, which includes this, that shows generative AI is actually 2 to 5 years out. So the other graph says it's 5 to 10.
Generative or general?
No, generative.
Okay.
So don't forget, this is mass adoption, universal. This is what this all means, these predictions.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we will see this, but no, I don't believe for a second 95%. I mean, that's too specific. It's too ridiculous to take any serious view on Shell, in my view.
Well, first of all, I like the at least 10 years out, because that means artificial general intelligence could be 10 years out, it could be 20, it could be 200. Yeah. It's just more than 10. So I think that's a safe way to put it. I do think there is a risk of 95% of marketers being out of work if we let it happen, if we allow the people who are in charge to say, I don't need you because I can get this done with AI. I just don't think that's what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is we're going to figure out how to use this in marketing. I mean, even Sam Altman talks about the fact that you can use this to test the creative against customer focus groups for predicting the results and then optimizing. So if we figure out how to do all of this and it makes our results better and faster, what can we do with the extra time? We can figure out how to take marketing to the next level. We can take the time to innovate in ways that we don't have the time for now because we're busy assembling those focus groups and running A/B tests on headlines and all of the things that go into a typical marketer's day. If you can compress all that and get excellent results, then we have the time to say, well, where do we take this now that we've got all of this, firing like a well-oiled machine? What's the next level? And I don't know what the answer is, but God knows marketing today isn't what marketing was in the 1960s. There's been some evolution, and technology has enabled a lot of that. So I don't see why AI, even AGI, if we do get there, is going to put an end to that progression, to that evolution. I think it'll actually speed it up and make it easier for marketers to figure out where they can add value now, especially by employing AI more effectively and more innovatively.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, again, like I said earlier, I think that's exactly what's already happening. And this isn't universal. It's people realizing the benefit of using a tool like this, in contrast to those who say, we'd never use this in our organization. And that probably, not necessarily everyone, but in many cases, I suspect, is fear of change that's imminent, and you can see it coming. It's heading right for us. And if you do nothing and don't prepare for this, it's likely then that your function will change or even go. So the idea that you mentioned, which wasn't a part of the original prediction, but it's easy to see where this could go. 95% of the marketers are going to lose their jobs. Frankly, it's utterly ridiculous to make that kind of assumption, it seems to me. Yet I understand why some clickbaiters are going to make that, because it'll get attention and build the fear. But all the same, it will have an impact. And it's not just to marketing. And indeed, what we're discussing could apply almost to any business function where people with smarts are doing things at whatever level they are in an organization. Some of what they're doing could be replaced by an automated system, let's call it generative AI or something like that. Or if they're really smart, they could figure out how to bring that on board to what they're currently doing to truly enhance their function and their ability to fulfill their role to its maximum using a tool like this, because this is at the end of the day that. And you mentioned the control aspect to it. This is exactly the state where we need to get to. And I've seen examples that this is already happening in many organizations, but not at scale. I think in my own experience, as a very small example, I'm doing a lot of this. So much of what I do in research, I employ many of these tools to conduct the research based on my request, what we call a prompt, to it to do that. And depending on how good or not my prompt is, it will influence what it comes back with. Well, I've learned quite a bit over the last year. For the stuff that I do, the prompts are actually pretty much spot on for the results that I get, that are what I'm expecting, what I'm hoping to get. And in my experience, and yours I'm sure will be the same, Shell, that I get these kind of aha moments every single day. Not every time, mind you, but almost every day, where there's something I've done that's given me something that lets me then do the next step in that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do the way as rapidly as I would be able to do it, using a tool like this to help me get to that point. And it also enables me to have it play devil's advocate with my own thinking. It's like talking to a person, except tailor it so it doesn't give you arguments and doesn't call you an idiot and stuff like that. I mean, that's helpful, isn't it? It builds up your own self-esteem, I suppose. But I find it very, very useful in that function, in that role as well. So you could apply that to this. This is like an extra team member. It's very handy.
I was looking at an article across my feed the other day. It's 30 prompts for middle managers in 2024. And it's broken them out into categories. For example, it has ChatGPT prompts for goal setting, and one of them says, I have an upcoming project which will, and then in brackets it says name the project, list its objectives, team member, job titles, deadlines, and any other essential items. And then it says, give me a SMART goals list that I can set for each team member. And they're like that. And, they're at one level they seem fairly obvious that, yeah, that's definitely something you would want to do. And at another, it's a little surprising. Oh, yeah, I can use ChatGPT for that. I don't have to sit here and try to muddle my way through it and spend hours and hours. I can get kickstarted.
Yeah.
I do think it's worth revisiting real quickly the beginning of this report, the fact that very, very few boards even bother to have people with marketing experience on them, despite the clear evidence that increases shareholder returns. It seems to me that as marketers, we're not doing a very good job of marketing our value in that regard, or there would be more of us on boards. It's the same situation with women, by the way. There's evidence that shows if you have at least a couple of women on your board, your earnings will be higher, and yet there are still plenty of boards out there that are all male. So, are we acting in the best interests of shareholders and investors and stakeholders with the composition of the board, or is it just that good old boys network? Maybe we should prompt AI for an answer.
Well, that would be a good idea. I'm not sure it would be able to give us anything that we could actually action, because what you described is a situation that's been in play for decades and no indication that's going to change anytime soon. But I think all of this is down to, the benefit of this is what individuals are doing in their own situations, their own organizations and their own needs, as opposed to looking at the bigger picture. Because that's not really relevant, in my view, to the kind of experience you're going to have, or even the confidence to do something, where you're worried about, this 95% or whatever it might be. Am I going to make a difference? Just do something yourself. Don't pay so much attention to the handy guides you see on LinkedIn all the time. Here's 50 good prompts for whoever. Although don't ignore any of that, but find trusted people who share that kind of thing rather than any Tom, Dick and Harry. And there's lots of Tom, Dick and Harrys on LinkedIn sharing this stuff. They're pimping all these guides. I found a really good one the other day that I learned quite a few things from it in terms of approach to prompting. That's the kind of thing to seek out. Not here's the 50 best guides for a marketing director to do when he's doing whatever. Experiment yourself. And I think what I see people talking about quite a bit in various places, including LinkedIn, the ones that I really pay attention to are those who are doing exactly that. They're doing their own experimenting and learning from that. That's what I did. And I've been able to share some of what I've learned with others. And that's really great. That, to me, is a great way of doing this. And I'm not wearing a monetization hat doing that at all. So it's sharing your thinking, but more than that, even it's to the point of our discussion today. This kind of kicks in the teeth this 95% idea, and you'll find that your value increases. In which case, that's what everyone needs to do. It won't work for every single person, but for many, it's going to work well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I enjoy looking through these lists of prompts for sparks, for inspiration. I'm not going to recreate that prompt on SMART goals, but it was the first time I thought, gee, if I'm asked to come up with SMART goals for a project, I could probably use AI for that. It hadn't occurred to me before. So, you can be inspired by these without relying on them to give you every word of what you're going to enter in a prompt. That's really your creativity and your particular use case that needs to
Right,
come
right.
to bear.
And I think one of the risks which some of these well-meaning guides provide or offer, one of the risks is that someone's going to take that as is verbatim and generate something, and that's it. I've heard people talking, that's what they do. And in my opinion, that's a fatal error to make, because that doesn't help you add the human value to this part of the chain, which is what part of this 95% of all these jobs are going to go is all about, because the AI is far more intelligent, it's going to replace you.
Yeah.
You need to work it in a way that AI enhances what you're doing, so that you are able to present something or create something and share it and action something with either colleagues or clients or customers or whoever it might be, that doesn't imply you have created this 100% from scratch yourself. That's not the point. You know how to use a tool to help you do this. And so you have asked the tool to do something, and it has come back to you with an answer that you think, wow, that's great. And you have then evolved that or tweaked it or fine-tuned it to be relevant to your situation, but also in a way that is transparent and that showcases your ability to understand how to use the tech. And we've heard lots of comments about, the AI is not going to take your job. It's the guy who knows how to use the AI will take your job. I mean, that's kind of like a ha, ha, ha kind of comment. But there's some value in thinking like that, because knowing how to use these, it doesn't mean you've got to know everything about every single tool that comes on the market. But in your situation, in your discipline area, in your organization or wherever it might be, that you're able to demonstrate the value you can bring by the fact that you've used this to help you deliver that value. And that actually would stand you in good stead on a company's board, I would say.
Sounds like a good place to wrap this up. So that will be a 30 for this episode of For Immediate Release.